I should have kept my mouth shut. That's what my manager told me later, her face pale as she pulled me into the kitchen, away from the dining room where he still sat. But in that moment, when the man in the $1,000 suit snapped his fingers at me like I was a dog, something inside me cracked. I don't respond to that, I'd said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. If you want service, you ask politely. The restaurant had gone silent. Every waiter, every guest, every person in that overpriced Italian establishment on Fifth Avenue had stopped breathing. The 4 men at his table, all wearing similar dark suits, all with the same dangerous stillness, had stared at me like I'd just signed my own death warrant. But it was his reaction that should have terrified me. He'd simply looked up from his phone, those coal-black eyes finding mine with an intensity that made my stomach drop. His face was all sharp angles and brutal beauty, the kind of handsome that came with a warning label. Dark hair pushed back from his forehead, a jaw that could cut glass, and lips that curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "What's your name?" he'd asked, his voice low and accented Italian, definitely Italian, but smoothed by years of American living. "Elena." I don't know why I told him the truth. Maybe because lying to those eyes felt impossible. "Elena." He'd said it like he was tasting it, rolling the syllables around his mouth. "You realize who I am? I realize you're a customer who forgot his manners." One of his men had actually gasped. Another had reached inside his jacket for what? I didn't want to know, but the man at the head of the table had raised one hand, stopping whatever violence was about to unfold. "Everyone out," he'd said quietly. I'd thought he meant me. I'd already been calculating whether I could make this month's rent without this job, whether my little sister could manage another semester at NYU if I had to find something else. But then I realized he meant everyone else. The entire restaurant. His men had stood immediately, gesturing to the other diners with a politeness that somehow made the threat more explicit. Within 5 minutes, Bella Notte had been emptied of everyone except the kitchen staff hiding in the back, my manager who'd locked herself in her office, and me, standing there with an order pad in my shaking hand, facing a man who'd just cleared out a restaurant with a single command. He'd leaned back in his chair, studying me with those unfathomable dark eyes. "Sit." "I'm working." "Not anymore. Sit down, Elena." I should have run. Should have thrown down my apron and walked straight out the door. Instead, I'd pulled out the chair across from him and sat, spine straight, meeting his gaze even as every instinct screamed that I was prey sitting down with a predator. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid," he'd said. "I'm neither. I'm just tired of men who think they can treat people like servants. I have servants. I treat them very well." He'd poured wine into 2 glasses, an expensive Barolo I'd served him earlier, and pushed one across the white tablecloth toward me. "You, though, you're something else." I hadn't touched the wine. "What do you want?" To understand what makes a waitress risk her life for the sake of manners. I didn't risk my life. I just refused to be disrespected. "Elena." The way he said my name made it sound like a caress and a threat. "Do you know what men do to people who disrespect me?" My heart had been hammering against my ribs, but I'd kept my voice level. "I didn't disrespect you. I asked you to treat me like a human being. If that's disrespectful in your world, then your world is broken." For a long moment, he'd said nothing, just watched me with those calculating eyes, his fingers drumming once against the table. Then he'd smiled, a real smile, not the dangerous curve from before, and it had transformed his entire face. "Dante Valentino," he'd said, extending his hand across the table. I'd recognized the name, of course. Everyone in New York knew the Valentino family. Old money and older sins, my grandmother used to say. They owned half the city and controlled the other half through means the newspapers only hinted at. I hadn't taken his hand. "I know who you are, and yet you still spoke to me like that. Would you prefer I lied, smiled and pretended it was fine?" "I'd prefer..." He'd stopped, tilted his head slightly. "Actually, no. I prefer exactly what you did. Do you know how long it's been since someone told me the truth? That sounds like a you problem." He'd laughed then, a genuine sound that had echoed through the empty restaurant. "Christo, you're fearless." "I'm not. I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of becoming someone who bows and scrapes just because you have money and power." Dante had leaned forward, elbows on the table, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, cedar and leather. "What if I told you I could make your life very difficult, Elena? That I could ensure you never work in this city again? Then I'd move to another city. And if I told you I could make sure your sister Sophia, isn't it? Junior at NYU, studying art history? If I told you I could ensure her scholarships disappear? Ice had flooded my veins. He knew about Sophia. Had investigated me, or had people who did. In the space of one dinner service, this man had learned everything he needed to destroy my life. You'd threaten a college student to punish me for asking you to be polite? I would do far worse than that. His voice had dropped to barely a whisper. But I won't. Because you're right, Elena. I was rude. I snapped my fingers at you like you were nothing, and you deserved better. I'd stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. I'm sorry, Dante Valentino had said. I apologize for my disrespect. Then he'd stood, buttoned his jacket, and pulled out a money clip thick with $100 bills. He'd laid 5 of them on the table, $500 for a meal he hadn't eaten. For the trouble, he'd said. Then, as he'd walked toward the door, he'd paused and looked back. I'll be seeing you, Elena. That had been last night. This morning, I'd woken to pounding on my apartment door, and 2 men in suits informing me that Mr. Valentino requested my presence. Not asked, requested, as if there was a difference. And if I refuse, I'd ask through the chained door. Then we wait, the older one had said politely. Mr. Valentino was very clear. We don't force, we don't threaten. We simply deliver the invitation and wait for your answer. They'd been waiting for 3 hours now. I could see them through my window, standing beside a black SUV with tinted windows, patient as statues. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The men at your door will not leave until you agree to meet with me. But I give you my word you are safe. I simply want to talk, and perhaps to apologize properly. DV. Another text came through immediately after. An image. A property deed. To an island. A private island off the coast of Long Island, 37 acres of pristine beachfront. Made out in my name. Consider it an apology for yesterday. And an incentive for today. 1 hour of your time, Elena. That's all I'm asking. I stared at my phone, at the impossible document on my screen, at the 2 men waiting patiently 3 stories below. Dante Valentino had bought me an island. For refusing to serve him, my hands were shaking as I texted back, "This is insane." His response was immediate. "Yes. Will you come anyway?" I looked around my tiny studio apartment, the water-stained ceiling, the radiator that clanked through the night, the second-hand furniture I'd cobbled together from thrift stores. I thought about Sophia's tuition, about the double shifts I worked just to keep us afloat, about the exhaustion that had become my constant companion, and I thought about those dark eyes watching me across a white tablecloth, and the way he'd said my name like it meant something. I was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. 1 hour, I typed, and I'm timing it. The response came with a single word and an emoji I never would have expected from a Mafia don. Deal. I grabbed my jacket, checked that the pepper spray was still in my purse, and headed for the door. Whatever Dante Valentino wanted with me, I was about to find out. And somehow, I knew my life would never be the same. The SUV was even more intimidating up close. Bulletproof glass I could tell by the thickness. Probably armored plating too. The kind of vehicle that said its owner expected to be shot at and wanted to be prepared. Miss Elena. The older man opened the rear door with a slight bow. I'm Marco. This is Enzo. We work for Mr. Valentino. As what, drivers? Bodyguards? Kidnappers? Marco's lips twitched. All 3, depending on the day. Today, we're simply drivers. Please. I climbed in, half expecting to find Dante waiting inside. Instead, the leather interior was empty, except for a bottle of sparkling water and a single white rose on the seat. No note. Just the rose. Where are we going? I asked as Marco pulled into traffic. Mr. Valentino's office. Which is where? You'll see shortly, Miss Elena. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to a building in Tribeca that looked like it had been designed by someone with more money than God and the taste to match. All glass and steel and modern architecture that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. The elevator required a keycard. We rode to the top floor in silence, except for the soft classical music playing overhead. Vivaldi. The 4 Seasons. Winter. Appropriate, I thought, given that I felt like I was walking into a storm. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office that took up the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, giving a view that made my stomach flip. Central Park stretched out like a green oasis below, and in the distance, I could see the Hudson River glittering in the morning sun. Elena. I turned. Dante stood by the windows. And in the daylight, he was even more devastating than I'd remembered. He'd traded the suit for dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and scattered with scars. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked like every warning your mother ever gave you about dangerous men. "Thank you, Marco," Dante said without looking away from me. "That will be all." The door clicked shut behind me. 1 hour, I said, checking my phone. "Starting now." He smiled. "Would you like coffee? Breakfast?" I had my chef prepare. "Explanation. I'd like an explanation." "Why did you buy me an island?" Dante moved toward his desk, a massive thing made of dark wood that looked like it had been carved from a single tree, and leaned against it, crossing his arms. "Because you intrigued me. That's it?" "I intrigue you, so you buy me property worth millions?" "The island was 12 million, actually, though the property taxes will be significant. I hope you don't mind, I've set up a trust fund to cover those as well." I felt dizzy. "You're insane." "I've been called worse." He gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. You look like you're about to faint." "I don't faint. And I don't accept gifts from men I don't know, especially not islands." "Then get to know me." He pushed off from the desk, moving closer. "That's why I asked you here. I want you to understand who I am. I know who you are, Dante Valentino, head of the Valentino crime family. You run drugs, weapons, probably human trafficking." "No." His voice went hard as steel. "Never trafficking, never children, never anything that exploits the helpless. I have rules, Elena. Lines I don't cross. How noble. You only do the regular crimes." He studied me for a long moment. "You're angry." "I'm confused. And yes, angry. You can't buy people, Dante. I'm not buying you. He stopped, ran a hand through his hair in a gesture that was almost vulnerable. "Christo, I'm handling this badly." "You think?" "Sit, please. Let me explain. And if at the end of this hour you want nothing to do with me, I'll have Marco drive you home and you'll never see me again. The island is yours regardless, no strings attached. I'll have my lawyers transfer the deed and then I'll disappear from your life." I didn't sit, but I didn't leave either. "Talk," I said. Dante moved back to the windows, looking out over the city he apparently controlled. "I was 8 years old when I watched my father kill a man at our dinner table. The man had stolen from us, not money, but respect. He'd insulted my mother in front of his friends, so my father shot him 3 times in the chest while we were eating pasta." I said nothing. What could I say? My mother didn't flinch. My older brother, Luca, he just kept eating, and I learned something that night in my family. Violence is just another language. Respect is currency, and showing weakness gets you killed. He turned back to me. "I've spent 34 years in this world, Elena. I've hurt people, killed people, done things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details. But I have always maintained one thing. I treat people with respect unless they give me reason not to." You snapped your fingers at me. I did, because I'd spent the entire day dealing with men who would kill me given the chance, negotiating with families who see me as either an asset or a threat, managing an empire built on blood and fear. And somewhere in all that, I forgot that not everyone in my life is a soldier or an enemy. He moved closer, and I should have stepped back, but I didn't. "You reminded me that I'm still human, Elena. That simple courtesy matters. That a waitress in a restaurant deserves the same respect as the men who would die for me. No one has done that in years, maybe ever. So you bought me an island. I wanted to show you that I heard you, that your words mattered, that you matter." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire expression changed, hardened into something cold and deadly. "Scusi," he said, stepping away. "I need to take this." He spoke in rapid Italian, his voice low and dangerous. I caught a few words my grandmother had taught me enough to understand the basics. Betrayal, warehouse. How many dead? When he ended the call, his jaw was tight. "I need to handle something," he said. "Marco will take you home." "What happened?" "Nothing you need to worry about. Dante, Elena." He was suddenly in front of me, close enough that I could see flecks of gold in those dark eyes. "In my world, knowledge is dangerous. The less you know, the safer you are. Trust me on this." "Then why bring me into your world at all?" "Because I'm selfish." His hand came up, fingers grazing my cheek so lightly I might have imagined it. Because for one moment yesterday, I felt like a man instead of a monster. And I want more of those moments. His phone buzzed again. Then again. Go, he said. Marco will. The windows exploded. Glass shattered inward in a storm of glittering shards. I screamed as Dante grabbed me, pulling me down behind the desk as bullets tore through the air where we'd just been standing. The sound was deafening crack, 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 impossibly loud and close. Stay down, Dante shouted. He had a gun in his hand. Where had he gotten a gun? And was returning fire, calm as if he did this every day. Maybe he did. The door burst open and Marco rushed in, weapon drawn, Enzo right behind him. More gunfire, shouting in Italian, Dante's body covering mine, his weight pressing me into the floor. One arm wrapped around my head as if he could shield me from bullets with just his flesh. The stairs, Marco shouted. East side clear. Dante hauled me up, keeping himself between me and the shattered windows. Move, move, move. We ran. Down a hallway I hadn't seen before, through a door marked emergency exit, into a concrete stairwell that echoed with our footsteps. Dante kept one hand locked around my wrist, pulling me after him, while Marco and Enzo brought up the rear. 20 floors. We ran 20 floors, and my lungs were burning, legs shaking, but Dante never let go. A black car was waiting in the underground garage, not the SUV from before. Something smaller and faster. Dante shoved me into the back seat and climbed in after me. Drive? He told the man behind the wheel. Route 7. We peeled out of the garage and into traffic, weaving between cars like they were standing still. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what had just happened. Someone had just tried to kill us. Someone had shot at us with what sounded like a small army's worth of firepower, and Dante had shot back like it was routine. And now we were fleeing through Manhattan like this was an action movie, except it was real. It was real. It was real. Breathe, Elena. Dante's hands cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. Look at me. Breathe. You're safe now. Safe? I laughed, and it came out hysterical. Someone just tried to kill us. Welcome to my world, he said grimly. This is what I wanted to protect you from. Then why did you bring me to your office? Why, because I'm an idiot who thought I could have one normal morning. His thumb brushed away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I'm sorry. Cristo. Elena. I'm so sorry. The car took a sharp turn, tires squealing. We were heading out of Manhattan now, toward the bridges. Where are we going? I asked. Dante's expression was grim. Somewhere they can't follow. Somewhere I can keep you safe until I figure out who just declared war on me. You can just drop me at my apartment. Your apartment isn't safe. If they know enough to hit my office, they know enough to find you. You're with me now, Elena. Whether you like it or not. I stared at him, this dangerous, beautiful man who'd bought me an island and then nearly gotten me killed in the same morning. This is insane, I whispered. Yes, he agreed. But you're alive, and I intend to keep you that way. He pulled out his phone, firing off rapid texts, his other hand still holding mine. And despite everything, the fear, the chaos, the absolute insanity of the situation, I didn't pull away. Because somehow, impossibly, I felt safer with Dante Valentino than I'd felt in years. God help me. The safe house was a mansion in Westchester that looked like it belonged in a magazine. You call this a safe house? I asked as we pulled through iron gates that probably cost more than my apartment building. I call it Tuesday, Dante said. He was on his third phone call since we'd left Manhattan, speaking in that rapid Italian that I could barely follow. From what I gathered, half his men were tracking down whoever had attacked us, while the other half were securing every property he owned. The car stopped in front of a sprawling colonial with white columns and perfectly manicured gardens. It looked peaceful, normal, like the kind of place where families barbecued on weekends and kids played in the yard, not like a place you fled to after a firefight in a penthouse. Inside, Marco said, opening my door. Quickly, please, Miss Elena. The interior was just as pristine hardwood floors, expensive furniture, art that probably belonged in a museum. But I noticed the details Dante's men saw. The reinforced door frames, the security cameras disguised as light fixtures, the panic room door hidden behind a bookshelf that didn't quite sit flush with the wall. The guest room is upstairs, second door on the left, Dante said, still on his phone. Everything you need should be there. If not, ask. Marco, how long are we staying? He covered the phone's microphone. As long as it takes. I have work. My sister is being moved to a secure location as we speak. 2 of my best men are with her. She's safer than you are. My blood went cold. You sent men after Sophia? I sent men to protect Sophia. There's a difference. He held up one finger, give me a minute, and went back to his call. I stood there in the marble foyer, still wearing my coffee shop jeans and the sweater I'd grabbed this morning, and tried to process how my life had gone from struggling waitress to whatever this was. Protected witness? Hostage? Dante's responsibility? Miss Elena? Marco appeared at my elbow. Perhaps you'd like to freshen up? Mister, Valentino will likely be occupied for some time. I want to talk to my sister. Of course. I'll have someone bring you a secure phone. Upstairs. The guest room was larger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed with white linens that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Attached bathroom with a soaking tub and a shower that looked like it could fit 4 people. And I opened the closet clothes. Women's clothes in exactly my size. How? I whispered. Mister, Valentino called ahead, said a woman's voice behind me. I spun. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair stood in the doorway, holding a tray with tea and sandwiches. I'm Maria, she said. I manage this house. Mr. Valentino called me this morning and gave me your sizes. I did my best with the time I had, but if anything doesn't fit, we can adjust. He knew my sizes? Mr. Valentino is very observant. She set down the tray. You should eat, dear. You've had quite a morning. That was the understatement of the century. Maria left me alone, and I finally let myself fall apart. Just for a moment. Just long enough to sit on the edge of that expensive bed and shake with the adrenaline crash. Someone had tried to kill us. Someone had shot actual bullets at actual people, and I'd been one of those people. And Dante had covered my body with his own like it was instinct. Like he wouldn't even consider letting me take a bullet. Why? Why would he do that for a waitress he barely knew? A knock on the door. Elena? Dante's voice, quieter than before. May I come in? It's your house. He entered anyway, looking exhausted. He'd changed into clean clothes, but there was a cut on his forehead I hadn't noticed before, probably from the glass. Blood had dried in his hair. You're hurt, I said. It's nothing. There's literally blood on your face. Elena, sit. I pointed to the bed. Let me look at it. For a moment, I thought he'd refuse. Then he sighed and sat, looking up at me with those impossibly dark eyes as I moved closer. The cut wasn't deep, but it needed cleaning. I went to the bathroom, found a first aid kit under the sink. Of course there was a first aid kit, and brought it back. This might sting, I warned, dabbing at the wound with antiseptic. Dante didn't flinch, but his eyes never left my face. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. You took bullets for me. I think I can handle a band-aid. I mean any of this. You can leave, Elena. I'll make sure you're protected. Set you up somewhere safe, somewhere far from New York. You and Sophia both. New identities, new lives. Whatever you want. I paused. The antiseptic-soaked cotton still pressed to his forehead. Is that what you want? For me to leave? I want you to be safe. That's not what I asked. He caught my wrist gently, his fingers warm against my skin. What I want is irrelevant. You didn't ask for this. Didn't ask to be dragged into a war between families. The right thing, the good thing, would be to let you go. But I'm not a good man, Elena. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. And the thought of you leaving makes me want to burn the entire city down. My breath caught. We were so close I could see the flecks of gold in his eyes. Could feel the heat radiating from his body. I should be terrified of you, I said. You should be. I'm not. Then you're not as smart as I thought. I pressed the butterfly bandage over the cut, my fingers lingering perhaps longer than necessary. Tell me something true, Dante. Something real. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, when I saw those windows explode, my first thought wasn't about me. It wasn't about my empire or my men or the war this would start. It was about you, about keeping you safe. I've known you for less than 24 hours, and already you've become the most important thing in my world. That terrifies me more than any enemy ever could. I should have stepped back, should have put distance between us. Instead, I found myself cupping his face, my thumb tracing the line of his jaw. I left my entire life behind today, I said. My apartment, my job, my routine. I got in a car with strangers and let them bring me to a strange place because you asked me to trust you. Do you know why? 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 Because yesterday in that restaurant, I saw something in you. Something human beneath all the danger and power. And I stopped. Tried to find the right words. I want to see more of that. Even if it's stupid. Even if it's dangerous. Dante's hand came up to cover mine, pressing my palm against his cheek. His eyes closed for just a second, and he looked almost peaceful. You're going to destroy me, he murmured. Good. You can afford to lose a few pieces. He laughed a real laugh, surprised and genuine. Then his expression shifted, grew serious again. The people who attacked today, they were Sorrentino family. My oldest rivals. This means war, Elena. Real war. Blood and bodies and territory fights. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Then why keep me here? Why not send me away like you said? Because I'm selfish. He stood, and suddenly we were chest to chest, his hands resting lightly on my waist. Because I want you near me. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of just the monster everyone expects. You're not a monster. I've killed 17 men, Elena, with my own hands, and that's not counting the ones I've ordered dead. What does that make me? I should have been horrified. Should have pulled away and demanded Marco take me home. Consequences be damned. Instead, I said, human. Flawed and dangerous and human. His forehead dropped to rest against mine. We stood like that for a moment, breathing the same air, existing in a bubble where the outside world couldn't reach. Then his phone buzzed, and buzzed again. Caso, he muttered. I'm sorry. I have to. I know. Go. He pulled back reluctantly, already reading his messages. His expression darkened. What? I asked. They found the shooters. Dead. All of them. Professional hit to clean up loose ends. He looked up at me. Whoever ordered this doesn't want to be found. What does that mean? It means someone very smart and very dangerous has decided I'm a problem. And they'll do anything to remove me, including hurting the people. He stopped, jaw tightening. The people around me. The people I care about. I heard in what he didn't say. Stay here, Dante said. Marco's posted outside your door. Don't leave this room without him. Understand? Dante, promise me. His hands gripped my shoulders, urgent and fierce. Promise me you won't take any chances. I promise. He kissed my forehead quick and almost chaste, and then he was gone, taking the warmth with him. I sank onto the bed, my fingers touching the spot where his lips had been. 24 hours ago, I'd been a waitress worried about rent and my sister's tuition. Now I was in a mansion under armed guard, bandaging the wounds of a Mafia don who looked at me like I was precious, while someone out there plotted both our deaths. My phone buzzed, the secure one Marco had given me. A text from Sofia. They said you're safe? What the hell is going on, Elena? Why are there men with guns in my apartment? I started to type a response, then stopped. What could I possibly say that would make sense? Another text, this time from an unknown number. Your sister is beautiful. It would be a shame if something happened to her. Leave Valentino, or she dies. You have 24 hours. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. They'd found Sofia, and they were going to kill her unless I left. I was down the stairs before I could think twice. The phone clutched in my shaking hand. Mr. Valentino is in a meeting. Marco started, but I pushed past him into the study where Dante stood over a table covered in maps and photographs with 6 of his men. They're threatening Sofia, I said, thrusting the phone at him. The room went silent. Dante read the message, and something cold and deadly settled over his features, the same expression I'd seen right before the shooting started. When did you receive this? His voice was terrifyingly calm. Just now, 2 minutes ago. He handed the phone to Marco. Trace it, now. Then, to the other men. Double the guard on Sofia. If anyone gets within 50 feet of her who isn't ours, I want them breathing but unable to walk. Understood? Sir. They filed out quickly, leaving us alone. They knew about her before today, I said. The words felt like shards of glass in my throat. You said you sent men to protect her because of the attack. But they already knew about Sofia before that. They've been watching us. Yes. Dante's jaw was tight, probably for days. Since the restaurant, I'd guess. Because I talked to you. Because I refused to serve you. And you noticed me. And now my sister's going to die. No. He was in front of me in 2 strides, hands gripping my arms. Elena, listen to me. Sofia is not going to die. I have 20 men surrounding her building right now. She's safer than the president. the text said. The text was meant to scare you, to make you run. They want to isolate me, remove anyone I might care about, and then strike when I'm vulnerable. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But you're not going anywhere. Neither is Sophia. Maybe I should. Maybe if I leave, they'll kill you both anyway. His bluntness was like a slap. Elena, these people don't make deals. They don't have honor. If you walk away, you become a loose end they'll eliminate. The only way you and Sophia survive this is if you stay under my protection. How can you be sure? Because I know how they think. I've been them. He released me, moving to pour 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter. Before my father died, I did terrible things to protect this family. I threatened children to get to their parents, burned businesses, destroyed lives. I know exactly what they're capable of because I've done it all myself. He handed me a glass. I didn't drink it. Are you trying to scare me? I asked. I'm trying to be honest. He downed his own whiskey in one swallow. You wanted to know who I am? This is who I am. A man who's killed and threatened and destroyed, all in the name of power. The only difference between me and them is that I've learned when to stop. They haven't. I set down the glass. I need to see Sophia. That's not safe. I don't care. Someone just threatened to kill my baby sister. I need to see her, touch her, know she's okay. Please, Dante. He studied me for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. Have Sophia brought here. Full escort, 3 cars, changing routes, and sweep the building again if there's a tracker or surveillance. I want it found. He ended the call and looked at me. She'll be here in an hour. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. She's going to have questions you won't want to answer. He wasn't wrong. When Sophia arrived flanked by 4 very large, very armed men, she took one look at me, one look at the mansion, and said, What the actual hell, Elena? Language, I said, automatically. Language? Language? There are men with guns who pulled me out of my apartment and drove me here in an actual motorcade, and you're worried about my language? She was beautiful. My sister all long dark hair and dramatic eyes, and the kind of sharp intelligence that had earned her a full scholarship to NYU. She was also furious. I can explain. Please do. Because right now, the only explanation I can think of is that you've somehow gotten involved with... She spotted Dante in the doorway and her eyes widened. Holy shit. Is that Dante Valentino? You know him? I asked. Everyone knows him. He's in the papers like every other week. Rich, dangerous, probably criminal. She looked between us. Oh my God. Elena, tell me you're not involved with Dante Valentino. It's complicated, I said. Complicated? He's a mobster. Technically, I prefer businessman with diverse interests, Dante said mildly. And you must be Sophia. Your sister has told me a great deal about you. My sister knows a mobster well enough to talk about me. What is happening? I pulled her into the study and closed the door, leaving Dante's men outside. Okay, I know this is weird. Weird? Elena, this is insane. I know. But listen, someone threatened you. Sent me a text saying they'd kill you if I didn't leave Dante. That's why you're here. That's why there are men with guns. Because you're in danger. Sophia's face drained of color. What? I showed her the text. Watched her read it once, twice, 3 times. This is because of him? Her voice shook. Someone wants to kill me because you know him? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never thought. How long have you even known him? 2 days. 2 days? Elena, have you lost your mind? Maybe I had. Probably I had. But I also knew that the moment those windows had exploded, Dante's first instinct had been to cover my body with his, that he'd looked at me like I was precious, that something in him called to something in me, as dangerous as that was. I know it's crazy, I said. I know you're scared, but Dante's men are the only thing standing between us and whoever sent that threat. Right now, this is the safest place we can be. Sophia sank into a chair, her face in her hands. This can't be real. This can't be my life right now. I knelt beside her, taking her hands. I'm going to keep you safe. I promise. How? How are you going to keep me safe from mobsters and killers and... She looked up at me, and I saw the fear in her eyes. The same fear I'd felt. I'm scared, Elena. Me too. A knock on the door. Marco's voice. Miss Elena? Mr. Valentino requests your presence. Sophia gripped my hands tighter. Don't leave me. I won't. Come with me. We found Dante in the security room, a space filled with monitors showing every angle of the property and several buildings I didn't recognize. He was watching footage, his expression grim. What is it? I asked. He pointed to one screen. That's Sophia's apartment building. 2 hours ago. The footage showed a man in a maintenance uniform entering the building. He's not maintenance. He's Sorrentino, one of their best surveillance operatives. He was in my building? Sophia's voice was small. He planted cameras in your apartment, Dante said. 3 of them. We found them all, disabled them. But they've been watching you for at least 3 days. My stomach turned. What did they see? Your routines, your schedule, your friends. He pulled up another screen. They also planted a tracker on your car, Elena, and another on your purse. My purse? How did they? Then I remembered. Yesterday, at the restaurant, I'd left my purse in the break room. Anyone could have accessed it. They've been planning this for days. Longer, Dante said. This kind of operation takes weeks to set up. They've been watching me, looking for weaknesses. And when I took an interest in you, he stopped, jaw tight. I made you a target. This isn't your fault, I said. It's entirely my fault. He finally looked at me, and the guilt in his eyes was devastating. You spoke to me once, and I've destroyed your life. You haven't destroyed anything. You're keeping us safe. For now. But they're not going to stop, Elena. The Sorrentinos want war, and they'll use you and Sophia to get it. The only question is how far they're willing to go. As if in answer, all the monitors went black. Then one flickered back to life, showing a single image. A photograph of Sophia walking across the NYU campus. Red crosshairs digitally superimposed over her head. A message appeared below. 24 hours. Then the girl dies. Sophia made a small, terrified sound. I pulled her close, but my own hands were shaking. Dante was already on his phone, barking orders. Lock down the property. No one in or out without my direct authorization. Bring in everyone I want, 50 men here within the hour. And find out how they breached our security system. He ended the call and turned to us. They've made their move. Now we make ours. What does that mean? I asked. It means we end this. His expression was cold, lethal. I'm going to find out exactly who's behind this threat, and I'm going to remove them. Permanently. You mean kill them? Sophia said. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. This is what my world looks like. There's no police to call. No laws that will help. There's only power and the willingness to use it. And if you're wrong? I asked. If you kill the wrong people, then I'll have started a war that could destroy everything I've built. He moved closer, his hand finding mine. But I'd burn it all down before I let them hurt you. Sophia looked between us, her expression a mixture of fear and understanding. You care about her. Really care about her. Dante's eyes never left mine. More than I should. More than is safe. But yes. Then I guess we're doing this, Sophia said shakily. The whole Mafia protection thing. Welcome to the family, Dante said with a grim smile. Marco will show you to your room. You should rest while you can. After Sophia left reluctantly, looking back at me 3 times, I turned to Dante. What now? I asked. Now I go to war. He cupped my face, his touch gentle despite the violence in his eyes. And you stay here, where you're safe. For how long? As long as it takes. His thumb traced my lower lip, and the tenderness of the gesture contrasted sharply with the deadly intent in his voice. Don't do anything stupid, I whispered. Stupid is my specialty. He kissed my forehead. Stay safe, Elena. I'll be back before dawn. Then he was gone, leaving me in a mansion surrounded by armed guards, my sister terrified in the room upstairs, and a countdown ticking toward violence I couldn't prevent. 24 hours until someone tried to kill Sophia, and Dante Valentino was going to make sure they regretted the threat. I just hoped we'd all survive what came next. Dante didn't return before dawn. I stayed up all night, watching the sunrise from the guest room window, listening to the guards change shifts, checking my phone every 5 minutes for a message that never came. Sophia had finally fallen asleep around 3, exhausted by fear. But I couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop seeing those red crosshairs over my sister's face. Couldn't stop wondering if Dante was alive. At 6:47 a.m., I heard vehicles on the gravel drive. I was downstairs before Marco could stop me, bursting through the front door to see 3 black SUVs pulling up. Dante emerged from the second vehicle, and relief hit me so hard I almost stumbled. He was covered in blood, splattered across his white shirt, staining his hands, streaked across his jaw. "Cristo, Elena, I told you to stay inside," he started, but I was already moving, crossing the distance between us and throwing my arms around him despite the blood. "You're alive," I breathed against his chest. His arms came around me, tight and fierce. "I told you I'd come back. You're covered in blood. None of it's mine." Somehow that should have horrified me more than it did. Instead, I just held him tighter. "It's done," he said quietly. "The immediate threat, at least. The men watching Sophia, the ones who breached our security, they're gone. Gone meaning dead." He pulled back to look at me, and there was no apology in his eyes. "I told you I'd end this. I should have been repulsed. Should have seen the blood and the coldness and recognized him for what he was, a killer, a monster, everything my grandmother had warned me about. Instead, I just felt grateful. Grateful he was alive. Grateful Sophia was safe. Grateful he'd come back to me. "You should shower," I said, touching the blood on his jaw. "Get cleaned up. Elena, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here when you're done." Something shifted in his expression, surprise. Maybe, or relief. He nodded and headed inside, his men following. I stood in the driveway as the sun rose higher, trying to process the fact that I'd just held a man covered in blood and felt nothing but relief. What was I becoming? When Dante emerged an hour later, he looked more human. Clean clothes, wet hair, the blood washed away, but the darkness still lingered in his eyes. "We need to talk," he said. "My office." His office in this mansion was smaller than the penthouse, but no less impressive floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A desk that looked antique. Leather chairs that probably cost more than a car. He closed the door behind us and poured 2 glasses of whiskey despite the early hour. "Drink," he said. "You're going to need it." I took the glass. "What happened last night?" "I found the Sorrentino underboss who'd ordered the surveillance. He was a man named Vittorio Carbone. Very good at what he did, which was finding people's weaknesses and exploiting them." Dante's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing a business report. "He's the one who had Sophia followed, who planted the cameras and trackers, who sent you that message. He won't be sending any more messages." I swallowed hard. "What about the Sorrentinos? Won't they retaliate?" "Probably. But I've made it clear that anyone who comes after you or Sophia will face the same fate as Carbone. Sometimes in my world, the only language people understand is violence." He set down his glass, moving closer. "I need you to understand something, Elena. This isn't over. What happened last night bought us time, but it's not a permanent solution. The Sorrentinos won't stop until I'm dead. Or they are. Then what do? We do nothing. You stay here, protected, until I can negotiate a truce or end this war entirely. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months." I laughed bitterly. "You want me to stay here for months? With Sophia? Just, what, living in your house like prisoners? Like my guests? That's just a pretty word for prisoners. It's the only way I can keep you safe." His voice rose, frustration breaking through his control. "Elena, you have to understand these people will not stop. They'll use you to get to me. Use Sophia to break you. The only way you survive is if you're under my protection. In my home. Surrounded by my men. So I give up my entire life? My job, my freedom, your life? Elena, you waitress double shifts just to afford a studio apartment. You worked yourself to exhaustion every day and still worried about making rent. I'm offering you something better. As what? Your kept woman? Your prisoner in a gilded cage?" His jaw tightened. "You know that's not what this is." "Do I? Then what is it, Dante? What am I to you?" The question hung between us, heavy and unanswered. "I don't know," he finally said. "I don't have words for what you are. I just know that when those windows exploded, the only thing I cared about was you. That I killed 6 men last night without hesitation because they threatened you. That the thought of you leaving makes me feel like I can't breathe." He moved closer, and I could smell the soap from his shower, see the exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. "I've spent 34 years building walls around myself," he said quietly. "Becoming someone who doesn't feel, doesn't care, doesn't let anyone close enough to be a weakness. And then you refused to serve me dinner, and everything I'd built just crumbled. Dante, stay." His hand found mine, fingers interlacing. "Not as a prisoner. Not as my kept woman. Just stay. Let me protect you. Let me figure out what this is between us without the threat of you dying hanging over my head. I should have said no. Should have demanded he take Sophia and me somewhere far away, set us up with new identities, let us disappear. Instead, I said, I need to call my boss. Explain why I can't come back to work. His relief was palpable. I'll buy the restaurant. Give you a different position. Something you can do from here. You're not buying the restaurant. Fine. I'll pay your salary for however long this takes. Consider it hazard pay. This is insane. Yes. He smiled, and it transformed his face. But you're staying. I'm staying. He pulled me closer, and suddenly we were chest to chest, his hands resting on my waist. You should know something else. What? I haven't stopped thinking about you since that first night. The way you stood up to me. The way you looked at me like I was just a man instead of... He stopped, searching for words. Everyone I've ever known wants something from me. Power, money, protection. But you just wanted me to be polite. That's not so much to ask. In my world, it's everything. His forehead rested against mine. You make me want to be better. Do better. Be the kind of man who deserves someone like you. I'm not special. You're everything. His voice was fierce. And I'm going to keep you safe. Elena, whatever it takes. Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. Wasn't sweet or tentative. It was desperate and claiming. Months of loneliness and violence and isolation poured into one moment of connection. His hands cupped my face, angled my head, deepened the kiss until I was drowning in him. I kissed him back with equal desperation. Maybe it was the fear, the adrenaline, the insanity of everything that had happened. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe I'd been falling for him since that first moment in the restaurant. When he'd looked at me like I mattered. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I started. A terrible idea, he finished. I shouldn't have. Do it again. His eyes darkened. Elena, I'm not fragile, Dante. I'm not going to break because you kissed me. And I'm not going to pretend I didn't want you to. I pulled him back down. So kiss me again. Or I'm going to think you didn't mean it. He groaned and obliged, backing me against his desk until I was sitting on the edge, his body between my knees. This kiss was slower, deeper, a claiming that made my toes curl. You're dangerous, he murmured against my lips, says the mobster. I mean it. You make me forget. His hand slid into my hair. You make me forget who I am, what I am. Good. Maybe you should forget more often. We kissed until I lost track of time, until the world outside that room disappeared, and there was only his mouth on mine. His hands gentle despite their capacity for violence. The way he said my name like a prayer. When his phone buzzed again and again, insistent, he finally pulled away with a curse. I have to take this, he said, his voice rough. I know. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips one more time. This isn't over. Good. After he left, I sat on his desk for a long moment, my fingers touching my lips, trying to process everything I was feeling. Fear, desire, guilt, hope. And beneath it all, the terrifying realization that I was falling for Dante Valentino, the man who'd bought me an island, covered my body with his during a firefight, and killed for me without hesitation. The man who kissed me like I was precious, and looked at me like I was his salvation. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. I saw him come in covered in blood. Are you okay? I typed back. I'm fine. He's fine. We're safe. Are you falling for him? I stared at the message for a long time before answering. Yes, Elena. Be careful. Men like that don't love. They possess. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was making a terrible mistake, confusing protection with affection, adrenaline with attraction. But when I closed my eyes, all I could see was Dante's face as he'd kissed me. The way he'd looked at me like I was the only thing in his world that mattered. And I thought, maybe possession didn't sound so bad, if it came with those kisses. 3 days passed in strange domesticity. Sophia and I fell into a routine in the mansion breakfast with Dante when he was there, which wasn't often. Afternoons spent reading or walking the gardens under the watchful eyes of guards. Evenings watching movies in the home theater or playing cards in the study. It was surreal, this mix of luxury and captivity, of safety and constant surveillance. Dante was gone most days, handling his empire, managing the fallout from Carbone's death, negotiating with families who saw weakness in his protection of us. But his nights, those belonged to me. We'd talk for hours in his study, sharing stories about our childhoods, our fears, our dreams. He told me about his mother, who died when he was 12, and how he'd promised her he'd be different from his father. I told him about my parents, lost in a car crash when I was 19, and how I'd raised Sophia alone ever since. And we kissed. God, we kissed. Against bookshelves and on leather sofas, and once, memorably, in the kitchen at 2 a.m., when we'd both been unable to sleep. Each kiss felt like falling, like drowning, like coming home. But we never went further than that. Dante would pull back, breathing hard, his hands shaking slightly as he put distance between us. "Not yet," he'd say. "Not while you're here because you have to be. When you stay with me, I want it to be because you choose to." On the fourth morning, I woke to voices raised in argument downstairs. I found Dante and Marco in the study, tension crackling between them. "Telling you, it doesn't make sense," Marco was saying. "Carbone was small time. He didn't have the authority to order something this big. Then who did?" Dante's voice was ice. "That's what I'm trying to tell you. I've been asking around, and no one in the Sorrentino family claims responsibility for the hit on your office. They're as confused as we are." I stepped into the room. "What does that mean?" Both men turned. Dante's expression softened when he saw me, but there was worry beneath it. "It means we might have the wrong enemy," he said. "Marco's sources suggest the Sorrentinos didn't order the attack, which means someone else did and tried to make it look like them." "Who? That's the question." He gestured to the table, where photographs and documents were spread out. "Someone with resources, intelligence, and a deep understanding of how my family operates. Someone close enough to know my schedule, my security protocols, He stopped, jaw tightening. "My weaknesses." "You think it's someone inside your organization?" I said. "I think it's someone I trust." The word seemed to pain him. "And that's infinitely more dangerous than an external enemy." Marco's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went pale. "Sir, you need to see this. Now." He pulled up a video on his laptop. Security footage from the restaurant the night I'd refused to serve Dante. But the angle was wrong. This wasn't from Bellinata's cameras. This was from across the street, zoomed in, focused specifically on our table. Someone had been watching that night, filming us. "There's more," Marco said grimly. He pulled up another video. My apartment building. Sophia leaving for class. Then another me walking to work. Another Sophia at the library. Weeks of surveillance, all dated before the attack on Dante's office. Who had these? Dante's voice was deadly quiet. "They were uploaded to a private server. Took our tech team days to crack it." Marco hesitated. "Sir, the server was registered to..." The door burst open. One of Dante's men, a younger guy named Luca, rushed in, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. "Sir, we have a breach. South perimeter, they're inside the grounds." Dante was moving before Luca finished speaking. "Marco, get Elena and Sophia to the safe room. Now. Full lockdown protocol." He grabbed a gun from his desk drawer. "How many?" "Unknown. At least 6, maybe more. They disabled the cameras. Gunfire erupted somewhere in the house. Close. Too close. Go." Dante shoved me toward Marco. "Get them out of here. I'm not leaving you. Elena, please." His eyes found mine, desperate. "I can't fight if I'm worried about you. Please." Marco grabbed my arm, pulling me into the hallway. Sophia appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes wide with fear. "What's happening?" "Safe room," Marco ordered. "Move." We ran through the mansion down a hallway, through a door hidden behind a panel, into a concrete stairwell that descended into darkness. Behind us, I could hear shouting, more gunfire, the sounds of chaos. The safe room was actually a bunker, reinforced walls, multiple monitors showing security feeds, enough supplies to last weeks. Marco sealed the door behind us, the heavy locks engaging with a series of metallic clanks. "Stay here," he said. "Don't open this door for anyone except me or Mr. Valentino. Understood?" "Where are you going?" Sophia asked. "To help." He checked his weapon. "You're safe here. Nothing gets through that door." Then he was gone, and Sophia and I were, alone in the bunker, watching the monitors as Dante's men fought invaders through the mansion. I found Dante on one of the screens in the entrance hall, moving with lethal precision, dropping attackers with controlled bursts of gunfire. He looked like a different person. Not the man who'd kissed me tenderly, but the Mafia Don who'd built an empire on violence. Elena. Sophia grabbed my arm. Look at this monitor. She pointed to a screen showing the south lawn. A man stood there, arms crossed, watching the mansion. He wasn't fighting, wasn't participating in the attack. Just watching. Who is that? I asked. The image was grainy, but there was something familiar about his stance, his build. The camera zoomed in automatically, focusing on his face. My blood went cold. It was Marco. But Marco had just left us to go help Dante. So, who was the man on the lawn? Elena, Sophia whispered. If Marco's out there, who did we just let seal us in? The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. And then I heard footsteps in the bunker, coming from behind us, from the direction Marco had gone. A voice in the darkness, cultured and cold. Did you really think I'd make the safe room actually safe? Not Marco's voice. Someone else's. Sophia and I backed against the wall as a figure emerged from the shadows. A man in his 50s, distinguished looking, wearing an expensive suit despite the violence above. Hello, Elena, he said. I've been looking forward to meeting you properly. My name is Giovanni Valentino. He smiled. Dante's uncle. And the person who's going to kill you both. The door we'd entered through the one Marco had sealed suddenly opened. Real Marco stumbled through, bleeding from his shoulder, 3 other men with guns behind him. Sir, I'm sorry, Marco gasped. They were already inside. I know. Giovanni's smile widened. I let them in. How else was I supposed to get past my nephew's legendary? Security? Your family, I said, my voice shaking. Why would you do this? Because Dante has forgotten what this family is built on. Power, fear, respect. Giovanni moved closer. He's gone soft, wasting time and resources on a waitress and her sister, making himself weak. And weak leaders die, Miss Elena. Along with everyone they try to protect. On the monitors I could see Dante still fighting. He didn't know. Didn't know his own uncle was the betrayer, the threat, the enemy we'd been searching for. He'll kill you for this, I said. He'll try. But first, he'll watch you die. Then your sister. Then every single person he's ever cared about. And when he's broken, truly broken, then I'll take what's mine. Giovanni pulled out a gun. I'd apologize, but we both know you understand. This is just business. He raised the weapon, pointing it at my chest. And I realized we were going to die in this bunker, while Dante fought an army above, and he'd never know his own family had betrayed him. Sophia grabbed my hand, squeezed tight. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. Giovanni's finger tightened on the trigger. A gunshot rang out. But I wasn't hit. Giovanni staggered, a bloom of red spreading across his white shirt. He looked down in confusion, then back up at Marco, who'd somehow gotten a gun despite his injuries, and had just shot his actual boss to save us. Run! Marco shouted, firing at the other men. Go, go, go! We ran. The bunker erupted into chaos. Sophia and I bolted through the door Marco had entered from not the main entrance but some kind of service tunnel I hadn't known existed. Behind us, gunfire echoed off concrete walls as Marco held off Giovanni's men. This way! Sophia pulled me right at a junction. I explored yesterday, this leads to the garage. You explored the secret bunker tunnels? I was bored. We burst into the garage 3 floors underground, filled with expensive cars and, more importantly, an exit ramp. But, between us and freedom stood 2 of Giovanni's men, weapons raised. Stop right there, one said. I was still holding the gun Marco had pressed into my hands as we'd run. I'd never fired a weapon in my life. Didn't know if it was even loaded. I raised it anyway, hands shaking. Let us pass. The man laughed. You don't even know how to hold that properly. He was right. The gun felt foreign in my grip, heavy and wrong. But I thought about Dante upstairs, fighting an army while his uncle betrayed him. Thought about Marco bleeding in that bunker, buying us time with his life. Thought about the life Sophia and I could have if we just made it out of this garage. My hands steadied. Maybe not, I said. But I'm willing to learn. The elevator dinged. All of us turned. The doors opened to reveal Dante, covered in blood and fury, his weapon raised. He took in the scene instantly, me and Sophia, the 2 gunmen, the standoff. Step away from them, he said, his voice arctic. Now. Boss, Mr. Valentino, we were just... The first gunman started. You were just working for my uncle. I know, Marco radioed me. Dante's eyes found mine across the garage. Are you hurt? No. Sophia? I'm okay, my sister said, though her voice shook. Good. Dante's gaze never left the gunman. You have 3 seconds to drop your weapons and tell me everything you know about Giovanni's plan. 3, 2. They dropped their guns. He's planning to kill you, the first one said quickly. Tonight. During the meeting with the Sorrentino family, he's arranged for assassins to be in the building, disguised as servers. You walk in, you don't walk out. And then? Then he takes over. Claims you died in the war with the Sorrentinos, frames them for your death, uses it to unite the other families against them. Dante's jaw tightened. How many families are with him? 2 for sure. Maybe 3. He's been working on this for months, boss. Since before. The man's eyes flicked to me. Since before you met her. This wasn't about Elena. Realization dawned on Dante's face. She was just the excuse. The thing he could point to and say I was distracted, weak. But he'd already been planning this. Yes, sir. Where is he now? He was in the bunker, but... He's gone, I said. Marco shot him, but he was still alive when we ran. Dante was already moving, gesturing for his men, the loyal ones, the ones who'd survived the attack above, to follow. Lock these 2 up. I want them alive for questioning. And someone get Marco medical attention. Now. He crossed to me, his hands cupping my face, checking for injuries. Are you sure you're okay? Both of you? We're fine. Dante, your uncle. I know. I should have seen it. Should have suspected. His voice cracked slightly. He's family. I trusted him. That's not your fault. It's entirely my fault. I brought you into this world, Elena. You and Sophia. If anything had happened to you. But it didn't. We're alive. Marco saved us. Marco's a good man. Dante pulled me close, just for a moment, his forehead resting against mine. I'm sorry. For all of this. For later, I interrupted. Right now, you need to stop your uncle. Stop his plan. Can you? His eyes hardened. Oh, I'm going to do more than stop it. I'm going to end it. Permanently. He pulled back, already issuing orders into his phone. Cancel the Sorrentino meeting. Lock down every property I own. And find Giovanni. I want him breathing, barely, in front of me within the hour. Sophia and I were escorted back upstairs. The real Marco, bandaged and pale but alive, insisted on guarding us himself. The mansion was a war zone. Bullet holes in walls, shattered glass, blood on marble floors. Dante's men were securing the perimeter, removing bodies, both his and Giovanni's. How many? I asked Marco quietly. Dead? 8 of ours, 15 of theirs. 23 people dead. Because of a power struggle, a betrayal, a family torn apart by greed. What happens now? Sophia asked. Now? Marco's smile was grim. Now Mr. Valentino reminds everyone why you don't cross the Valentino family. Why you don't betray him. Why... He stopped, searching for words. Why he's still alive after 34 years in this business. They found Giovanni an hour later, hiding in a warehouse by the docks. Dante's men dragged him back to the mansion, threw him at Dante's feet in the study. I watched from the doorway. Dante had tried to make me leave, but I'd refused. I needed to see this. Needed to understand the world I was choosing to be part of. Giovanni was bloody, beaten, but still defiant. You don't have the balls to kill me, he spat. I'm family. You stopped being family the moment you threatened her. Dante's voice was quiet, terrifying in its control. You tried to kill Elena and Sophia. You betrayed me to the families. You murdered 8 of my men. Give me one reason I shouldn't put a bullet in your head right now. Because you're weak. Because you've gone soft over a girl. Giovanni laughed, the sound bitter. Look at you. The great Dante Valentino, brought to his knees by a waitress. Your father would be ashamed. My father, Dante said coldly, was a monster. He built this family on fear and blood and cruelty. And yes, I've followed in his footsteps. I've killed, threatened, destroyed. But I've also tried to be something more. Something better. Because my mother asked me to be. Because his eyes found mine across the room. Because someone reminded me that respect and courtesy matter, that how you treat people defines who you are. He raised his weapon, pressing it to Giovanni's forehead. You're right about one thing, Uncle. I am weak. Weak enough to care about people. Weak enough to want something more than just power and fear. Weak enough to love. His finger tensed on the trigger. Dante. My voice. Quiet but clear. Don't. He didn't lower the gun. He tried to kill you. I know. And he should pay for that. But not like this. Not execution. Not. I moved into the room, ignoring Marco's protest. Not turning you into your father, Elena. If you kill him in cold blood, he wins. Because he'll have proven his point. That you're just another monster. Just another violent man in a violent world. I stopped beside him. Be better than that. Be the man who apologized for being rude. Who bought me an island because he wanted to show respect. Who covered my body with his when bullets flew. Dante's hand shook. Just slightly. But enough. He lowered the gun. You're going to wish I'd killed you, he told Giovanni. Because what comes next is worse. I'm turning you over to the commission. Every family, every boss, every underboss will know you're a traitor. That you broke omertà, betrayed your blood. And they'll decide your fate. Giovanni's face went pale. In the Mafia world, there were things worse than death. Being labeled a traitor, turned over to the commission's judgment, that was one of them. Get him out of here, Dante ordered. And make sure every family knows what he did, what he tried to do. After Giovanni was dragged away, the study emptied until it was just Dante and me. You stopped me, he said quietly. Yes. Why? He tried to kill you. Your sister. He deserved, maybe. But you deserve better than becoming a killer because of me. I moved closer, taking his hand, still shaking slightly with unspent rage. You said I make you want to be better. Let me help you be better. You're either very brave or very stupid. I've been told that before. I smiled, remembering. By you. Actually, the first night. His laugh was broken. Cristo, was that really only a week ago? It feels like a lifetime. A lot has happened. Too much. Elena, He stopped, struggling with words. I've put you through hell. You should hate me. I should, but I don't. Why not? Because beneath the violence and the power and the dangerous world, I see you. The man who apologizes when he's wrong. Who protects people he cares about with everything he has. Who's trying, every day, to be better than his father. I cupped his face. That's the man I'm falling for. Not the Mafia Don. Just you. His eyes closed. And for a moment he looked almost peaceful. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, pouring everything he couldn't say into the contact. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. This life, he said. My life. It's always going to be dangerous. There will always be people who want to hurt me, hurt the people I care about. There will be violence and fear and nights where you don't know if I'm coming home. I know. And you'd choose this anyway? Choose me? I thought about the past week. The fear, the danger, the blood and violence. Thought about Sofia terrified in the bunker, about Marco bleeding, about 23 people dead because of a power struggle. Then I thought about Dante's hands gentle on my face, about the way he'd covered my body with his, about how he'd stopped himself from killing his uncle because I'd asked him to. Yes, I said. I choose you. His smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. Then I have something to show you. Dante led me to a part of the mansion I'd never explored, past the guest rooms and living areas, up a private staircase to what I assumed was his personal floor. Where are we going? I asked. You'll see. His suite was stunning, all dark wood and leather and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the estate. But he didn't stop there. He opened a door I'd thought was a closet, revealing another staircase. This one spiraled up, narrow and slightly claustrophobic. At the top was a room I didn't expect. It was clearly an office. But unlike the formal study downstairs, this space was personal, comfortable. Bookshelves lined with worn paperbacks, not just the leather-bound first editions. A desk, scattered with photos his mother, smiling in a garden. A young Dante with an older boy who must have been his brother Luca. A guitar propped in the corner, scuffed and well-loved. This is your real office, I said. My sanctuary. He moved to the windows. No one comes up here except me. Not my men, not my family, no one. He turned to look at me. Until now. I understood what he was offering. trust, vulnerability, access to the parts of himself he kept hidden from his world. "Why show me this?" I asked. "Because you deserve to know who I really am. Not the boss, not the Don, just Dante." He gestured around the room. "I come here when I need to think, to remember I'm human, to play guitar badly and read books that have nothing to do with my business and pretend, just for an hour, that I'm normal." I moved to the bookshelves, running my fingers along the spines. Fantasy novels, poetry, history books, nothing about crime or business or the violent world below. "My mother used to read to me," he said quietly. "Every night, no matter how late my father's meetings ran, no matter how dangerous things got, she'd come to my room and read. Fantasy, mostly. Stories about heroes and adventures and worlds where good triumphed over evil." He laughed softly. "I think she wanted me to believe I could be one of the heroes, that I didn't have to be like my father. You're not like your father. I'm exactly like my father. I just try to be better at it." I found the photo of his mother, studied her face beautiful and kind, smiling at whoever held the camera. "Tell me about her." So he did. About Sofia Valentino, who'd married into the family at 19 and spent the next 20 years trying to inject humanity into a world built on violence. Who'd taught her sons to read and play music and treat people with respect. Who died of cancer when Dante was 12, leaving him in the care of a father who saw emotions as weakness. She made me promise her something, Dante said, the day before she died. She took my hand and said, "Don't let this life make you cruel. Whatever you have to do to survive, don't lose your humanity." And I've tried, Elena. I've tried so hard. But some days I look in the mirror and wonder if I've already lost it. I set down the photo and crossed to him. "You haven't. You couldn't have, because a man without humanity wouldn't care about losing it. That's circular logic. Maybe. But it's true." I took his hands. "You showed me this room, Dante. Your sanctuary. The place where you're just you. That's not something a monster does." He pulled me close, wrapping his arms around me. For a long moment we just stood there, two people trying to find peace in a world that offered none. "I want to give you a choice," he finally said. "A real choice. Without guns or threats or violence forcing your hand. I already chose you. I know. But I need you to understand what that means." He pulled back enough to look at me. "If you stay with me, truly stay, not just hide here until the danger passes, your life changes forever. You become part of this world. My world. You'll be a target for my enemies. Your sister will be a target. Every moment will carry risk." "I know. Let me finish. Please." He guided me to a leather couch by the windows. "I'm the head of one of the most powerful crime families in New York. That comes with respect, fear, money, more money than you can imagine. It also comes with constant danger, hard choices, and the knowledge that I've done terrible things to stay in power." He took a breath. "If you stay, you'll eventually see all of that. The violence, the moral compromises, the moments where I have to be the monster instead of the man. And I need to know. Need to be certain that you can handle that." "What's the alternative?" I asked. "I send you away. You and Sofia both. New identities, new city, enough money to never worry again, my protection from a distance, but no contact, no danger, no violence, just a normal life. And you?" His smile was sad. "I go back to being what I was before. Cold, alone, powerful. Exactly what my family expects." I looked around his sanctuary at the books and the guitar and the photos of a mother who'd wanted better for her son. Thought about the man who'd apologized for being rude, who'd bought me an island, who'd stopped himself from killing because I'd asked him to. "Can I tell you something?" I said. "Anything. When I was 19 and my parents died, I had a choice. Sofia was 14, scared, grieving. I could have put her in foster care, let the system handle it, gone off to college like I'd planned. I met his eyes. I chose her instead. Chose the double shifts and the exhaustion and the constant worry about money. Chose to be her parent instead of her sister. And people thought I was crazy giving up my future for a teenager who wasn't even really my responsibility. But she was your family. Exactly. And you don't abandon family." I took his hands. "Dante, you're not asking me to choose danger over safety. You're asking me to choose you. The real you. The man in this room who reads fantasy novels and plays guitar badly and tries every day to be better than his father. And if I fail, if I become the monster, then I'll remind you who you really are. Just like your mother tried to. Just like I did today. I smiled. That's what people who love each other do, right? They help each other be better. His breath caught. Love? Yes. Love. I'm in love with you, Dante Valentino. With the good and the bad, the violence and the gentleness, the mob boss and the man. All of it. All of you. Elena. So my choice is this. I stay. Sophia stays, if she wants to, and I'll let her make that decision herself. We become part of your world, with all the danger and craziness that entails. And you... I pulled him closer. You let me love you. Let me be your sanctuary, the way this room is. Let me help you be the man your mother wanted you to be. For a long moment he just stared at me, his dark eyes shining with something that might have been tears. I don't deserve you, he finally said. We've established that. But I'm yours anyway. He kissed me then, and this time there was no holding back. No pulling away. No hesitation. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head, deepening the kiss, until I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, could only feel. When he lifted me, I wrapped my legs around his waist, and he carried me to the couch without breaking the kiss. We fell together onto the leather, a tangle of limbs and breathless laughter and whispered confessions. I love you, he said against my lips. Cristo, Elena. I love you so much it terrifies me. Good. You should be terrified. I'm very scary when I want to be. He laughed and kissed me again, and the world outside, the violence, the danger, the blood faded away until there was only this. Two people choosing each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. Later, wrapped in his arms as the sun set over the estate, I whispered, "What happens now?" Now, his fingers traced patterns on my back. Now I deal with Giovanni's betrayal, shore up my alliances, make sure everyone knows that attacking you is attacking me. That's the mob boss answer. What's the Dante answer? He smiled. The Dante answer is, now I introduce you to my family, the real family, not the traitors. I show the world that you're mine, and I'm yours. And then, he kissed my temple. Then we figure out the rest as we go. Together. Together. I agreed. My phone buzzed. Sophia, finally. Are you alive? Is he alive? Is this finally over? I typed back. Alive. He's alive. It's not over, but we're safe. For now. And you're staying with him? Yes. Even after everything? Especially after everything. Her response took a minute. Then I guess I'm staying too. Someone has to keep you both from doing anything stupid. I laughed and showed Dante the message. He smiled. She's a good sister. The best. Then I'll protect her like she's my own. I promise you that, Elena. Whatever comes, whoever threatens us, I'll keep you both safe. I believed him. Maybe that made me stupid. Maybe I was making the biggest mistake of my life, choosing a man who lived in violence and danger. But when he looked at me like I was his salvation, when he kissed me like I was precious, when he opened his sanctuary and let me see his soul, how could I choose anything else? The meeting with the commission was scheduled for 3 days later. Those 3 days were a whirlwind. Dante's lawyers drew up documents making Sophia and me officially under his protection, which in the mob world was as binding as any legal contract. His men swept every property for threats, reinforced security, and conducted background checks on every person who'd been in the mansion the night of Giovanni's attack. And Dante introduced me to his world. This is Salvatore Russo, he said, gesturing to a heavy-set man with kind eyes who ran the Brooklyn docks. Sal, this is Elena. She's under my personal protection. Sal had kissed my hand with old-world courtesy. Any woman who can tame Dante Valentino has my respect. Welcome to the family, Miss Elena. There were others, Angela Moretti, who controlled most of the city's restaurants, Frank DeLuca, who managed the construction unions, each one powerful in their own right, each one deferring to Dante with a respect that was clearly earned, not demanded. They like you, I observed after the fourth such introduction. They fear me, Dante corrected. But yes, some of them like me too. I'm fair, as long as they follow the rules. I don't demand more than they can give, and I protect my people. He pulled me close. The way I'll protect you. Sophia, meanwhile, was adapting in her own way. She'd formed an unlikely friendship with Marco, who taught her basic self-defense in the mansion's gym. If you're staying in this world, Marco told her, as I watched from the doorway, you need to know how to protect yourself. Mr. Valentino's men can't be everywhere at once. Show me the move again, Sophia said. The one where I flip someone twice my size. I smiled. My little sister, learning to fight from a mobster. Our lives had gotten so strange. The night before the commission meeting, Dante found me in the library. The room had become my refuge, filled with books and comfortable chairs and windows overlooking the gardens. Can't sleep? He asked. Too much on my mind. I set down the novel I'd been pretending to read. Tomorrow's going to be bad, isn't it? Probably. He sat beside me, pulling me against his chest. The commission will want to see Giovanni punished. They'll expect me to be the one to do it. You mean kill him? Yes. But you gave him to them. Doesn't that count? It buys him time. But eventually, they'll demand blood. That's how this world works, Elena. Blood for betrayal. Death for treachery. I was quiet for a moment. Could you do it? Could you kill your own uncle? I don't know. His hand found mine, fingers interlacing. A week ago, I wouldn't have hesitated. But you've changed something in me. Made me question things I never questioned before. I don't want to change you. You already have, and I'm grateful for it. He kissed the top of my head. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever they demand, I need you to know that I'm doing this for us. For the future we could have, if I can just survive long enough to build it. What kind of future? The kind where we wake up together. Where I take you to that island I bought you, yes. It's still yours, and we spend weekends away from this madness. Where Sophia finishes college and finds someone worthy of her, and I walk her down the aisle because I've become the big brother she never had. His voice grew softer. Where maybe, someday, there's a little girl with your eyes and my stubbornness, and I get to read her fantasy stories the way my mother read to me. Where I'm not just the mob boss, the killer, the monster. Where I'm just Dante. You're Dante. Tears pricked my eyes. I want that future too. Then help me survive tomorrow. How? Be there. In the room. The commission usually forbids outsiders, but I'm invoking an old rule, the right to have your family present for judgment. You and Sophia, if she's willing. He stopped, struggling with the words. I need to look at you and remember what I'm fighting for. We'll be there, I promised. The next morning, we dressed for war. Dante in a black suit that cost more than a car, looking every inch the dangerous man he was. Sophia in a simple dress, her hair pulled back, her expression determined. And me in a dark blue dress that Dante's stylist had selected, elegant, respectful, and subtly armored with lightweight protective panels sewn into the fabric. Just in case, Dante had said when I'd questioned it. I'm not taking any chances with you. The commission met in a neutral location, an old restaurant in Little Italy that had been closed for renovations for the past decade. In reality, it was where the city's major crime families gathered to settle disputes, make alliances, and render judgment. We arrived in a convoy of 6 vehicles. Dante's men formed a protective circle as we entered. But once inside, it was just the 3 of us. Dante, Sophia, and me. The main dining room had been converted into a tribunal. A long table sat at the front, with 5 chairs for the 5 family heads who made up the commission. Below them, rows of seats for witnesses and interested parties. And in the center, on his knees with his hands bound, was Giovanni. He looked terrible, beaten, bloody, broken. But when he saw us enter, his eyes filled with hate. You brought her here? He spat at Dante. You bring a civilian to commission business? She's family, Dante said coldly. Which is more than I can say for you. The commission members arrived. Don Salvatore Russo, whom I'd met. Don Angela Moretti. Don Frank De Luca, and 2 others, Don Vincent Caruso and Don Maria Battaglia, both older, both radiating the kind of power that came from decades of survival in this world. We are here, Don Caruso intoned, to judge the actions of Giovanni Valentino, accused of betraying his family, attempting to murder his nephew, and breaking omerta. How does the accused answer these charges? I did what needed to be done, Giovanni said. Dante has grown weak, soft. He protects civilians, wastes resources on sentiment, forgets what we are. I acted to save the family. You acted to seize power, Dante interrupted. You hired assassins, planted surveillance, turned my own men against me. And when that failed, you tried to murder the woman I love and her sister. That's not saving the family, that's destroying it. The woman you love. Giovanni laughed bitterly. You see, he admits it. He's compromised by emotion, by attachment. That makes him weak. Enough. Don Moretti's voice cut through the room. We've heard the evidence. Dante Valentino, you have the right to speak on your own behalf. Dante stood. I won't defend my choices. Yes, I care about Elena. Yes, I've protected her and her sister. But that doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. And humanity, respecting people, treating them with dignity, remembering that we're more than just criminals, that's what separates us from animals. He moved to stand beside Giovanni, looking down at his uncle. You say I'm soft? I've killed more men than you ever commanded, built more power than you ever dreamed of. I've survived attempts on my life, wars with rival families, betrayals from people I trusted, and I've done it all while maintaining the respect of the people I lead. Not through fear, but through fairness. Through strength, yes, but also through honor. His voice grew harder. You broke that honor. You betrayed me, tried to murder innocence, and used the family name to justify your own ambition. So yes, I brought Elena here. I want you to see what you tried to destroy. I want the commission to see what I'm willing to die protecting. He turned to face the 5 Dons. Giovanni deserves death. That's the traditional punishment for betrayal. But I'm asking for something different. I'm asking you to exile him. Strip him of the family name, his resources, his protection. Let him live, but as nothing, as no one. Let him spend the rest of his life knowing that he lost everything because he forgot what family really means. The room was silent. Don Caruso looked at Dante for a long moment. And if we refuse? If we demand blood for betrayal? Then I'll provide it. Dante's hand moved to his jacket, where I knew he kept a gun. But I'm asking, begging for mercy. Not for him, for me. Because if I kill him in cold blood, I become exactly what he accused me of being, a monster without humanity. He's already a monster, Giovanni screamed. They all are. You think they care about mercy? About humanity? This is the Mafia, not Don. Battaglia's hand came down on the table like a gunshot. Silence. The 5 Dons conferred in whispers. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Sophia gripped my hand so tight it hurt. Finally, Don Russo spoke. We have reached a decision. Giovanni Valentino, for the crimes of betrayal, attempted murder, and breaking omertà, you are hereby stripped of the Valentino name. Your assets are forfeit. Your protection is revoked. You are exiled from New York, and all territories controlled by this commission. If you are seen within city limits after sunset tonight, you will be killed on sight. Do you understand? Giovanni's face crumbled. No, you can't. I'm family. I'm Valentino. Not anymore, Dante said quietly. You're nothing. They dragged Giovanni away, still screaming protests. And then it was over. The commission members approached Dante, each one shaking his hand, acknowledging his mercy and his strength. You chose well, Don Moretti told me as she passed. He's a good man, beneath the dangerous exterior. Treat him well, Miss Elena. I will. I promised. Outside, Dante's men formed up around us for the drive back. But before we reached the cars, Dante pulled me aside into a small courtyard behind the restaurant. You survived your first commission meeting, he said. I didn't do anything except sit there. You did everything. You were there. You reminded me what I'm fighting for. He cupped my face. Elena, I need to ask you something. And before you answer, I want you to really think about it. My heart started racing. Okay. Marry me. I stared at him. What? I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a week, but in that week you've changed everything for me. You've made me want to be better. Made me believe I can be more than just the monster my father created. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. I love you. I want to build that future. I described the island weekends and the children and the life that's more than just violence and fear. And I want to do it with you. Dante, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. Take all the time you need. But know that I'm serious. I want you as my wife, Elena. As my partner. As the person I wake up to every morning and fight to come home to every night. I thought about the past week. The terror and violence, yes. But also the tenderness. The way he'd protected us. Changed for us. Fought for us. The man in the sanctuary who read fantasy novels and played guitar. The Don who'd shown mercy when vengeance would have been easier. Yes, I said. He blinked. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. I'll be your wife, your partner, your sanctuary. I'll help you be the man you want to be, and I'll love you through all of it, the good, the bad, the dangerous, the beautiful. All of it. His smile could have lit the city. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed me then, right there in that courtyard behind a closed restaurant where the Mafia had just rendered judgment, with his men waiting and Sophia probably watching and the whole complicated, dangerous world around us. And I kissed him back, choosing love over safety, danger over boredom, a mobster who read fantasy novels over a normal life that would never have challenged me. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this, he promised. I won't, I said. But you're definitely taking me to that island for our honeymoon. He laughed, genuine and free. Deal. 3 months later, I stood on a private beach on the island Dante had bought me, wearing a simple white dress and no shoes, watching the sun set over the Atlantic. You look beautiful, Sophia said, adjusting the small wreath of flowers in my hair. Happy, really happy. I am. And it was true. Despite everything, the danger, the adjustments, the whole insane situation, I was happier than I'd ever been. The wedding was small, just Sophia, Dante's remaining loyal family members, Marco, who'd recovered fully and become one of my closest friends, and a handful of Dante's most trusted people. No press, no fanfare, no massive ceremony, just 2 people promising to love each other, standing on a beach with the waves as witness. Ready? Sophia asked. So ready. She walked me down the sand to where Dante waited, looking devastating in a black suit with his feet bare and his hair slightly ruffled by the wind. When he saw me, his face transformed, the dangerous dawn disappearing to reveal just the man who loved me. The ceremony was simple. No priest, we'd chosen a civil celebrant who didn't ask questions about Dante's business. Just vows and promises, and the exchange of simple gold bands. I promise to protect you, Dante said, sliding the ring onto my finger. To cherish you. To be the man you see when you look at me, the one who's trying to be better every day. To build a life with you that's more than just survival. And to love you, Elena, with everything I am, for as long as I breathe. I promise to love you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Through the danger and the peace, the violence and the tenderness. To be your sanctuary and your strength. To remind you who you are when the world tries to make you forget. And to choose you, Dante, every single day, for the rest of our lives. By the power vested in me, the celebrant said with a smile. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Dante kissed me as the sun touched the horizon, painting everything gold and red. His hands cupped my face tenderly, and when we broke apart, there were tears on his cheeks. My wife, he whispered. Cristo, Elena, my wife. Your wife, I agreed. Forever. The reception was on the beach, torches lit as darkness fell. Music from speakers hidden in the dunes, food prepared by a chef who'd been sworn to secrecy. We danced on the sand, laughed with our small group of loved ones, and celebrated not just a wedding but survival. To the happy couple, Marco toasted, raising his glass. Who proved that even in our world, love can win. To love winning? Everyone echoed. Later, when the party had wound down and Sophia had retired to the island's guest house with promises not to interrupt us, Dante and I walked the beach alone. What are you thinking? I asked, watching the moonlight on the water. That a month ago, I was alone. Powerful. Yes. Wealthy. Respected. But alone. And now, he pulled me close. Now I have you. A wife who sees me, really sees me, and loves me anyway. A sister-in-law who's become the sibling I always wanted. A future that's more than just violence and power. Any regrets? Not a single one. He kissed my temple. Well, maybe one. What? That I wasted so many years being the monster instead of the man. That I didn't meet you sooner. We met exactly when we were supposed to, I said. Any earlier, and I might not have been brave enough to refuse to serve you. Any later, and you might not have been ready to be the man who apologized. You're very wise for a waitress. Former waitress, I corrected. I'm a mob wife now. He laughed and spun me in the sand, both of us giddy with champagne and happiness and the sheer impossibility of how we'd gotten here. What happens now? I asked as we settled on the beach. His arms around me, both of us watching the stars. Now we figure it out together. The business will always be there. I can't just walk away from a century of family legacy. But I'm making changes. Legitimate businesses, legal operations, slowly transitioning away from the violence. He squeezed me gently. It'll take years, maybe decades. But I want to build something Sophia's future children can be proud of. Something our children can inherit without the blood. Our children? If you want them? If you're willing to bring kids into this world. I thought about a little girl with Dante's eyes and my stubbornness. About a boy who'd grow up knowing his father was trying to be better. About the risks and the dangers, yes, but also the love and protection and the chance to break the cycle. I want them, I said. Someday, when the world is a little safer, a little saner. But yes, I want them. His hand found my stomach, resting there gently. I'll make the world safer. For you, for them, for all of us. That's my promise, Elena. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure our family is protected and our future is secure. I believe you. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to the waves, breathing in salt air, existing in this perfect moment of peace. My phone buzzed. Sophia, I know you said not to interrupt, but Mom and Dad would have loved him. Would have loved seeing you this happy. Just thought you should know. Now go enjoy your wedding night. I'm going to bed. Love you. Tears sprang to my eyes. I showed the message to Dante. She's right, I said. They would have loved you. The real you, not the reputation. I wish I could have met them, asked for their blessing. They'd have given it. My father always said the measure of a man isn't what he's done, but what he does next. You're choosing to be better, Dante. That's all they'd care about. He kissed me soft and sweet and full of promise. Come on, let's go inside. I want to start our forever properly. The island house was beautiful, all white walls and open windows and the sound of the ocean. Dante carried me over the threshold despite my laughing protests, then set me down gently in a bedroom that overlooked the water. Mrs. Valentino, he said, helping me out of the dress with careful hands. My wife, my love, my salvation. Mr. Valentino, I replied, running my hands over his chest. My husband, my protector, my choice. We made love slowly, tenderly, celebrating not just the wedding but everything we'd survived to get here. The danger and the fear, the violence and the mercy, the moments we'd chosen each other when choosing safety would have been easier. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with moonlight streaming through the windows, I thought about the life ahead. The challenges, yes, there would always be threats, always be people who wanted to hurt us, always be the shadow of his world hanging over our happiness. But there would also be mornings like this, waking up beside him, afternoons teaching Sophia's future children to build sandcastles on this beach, evenings in Dante's sanctuary, reading books, and playing guitar, and being simply, beautifully human. I love you, I whispered into the darkness. I love you, he murmured back, already half asleep. My brave, foolish, perfect wife. I smiled and let myself drift off, secure in his arms, safe on our island, ready for whatever future we'd build together. Because yes, I'd chosen danger over safety, a mobster over a normal life, but I'd also chosen love. Real love, flawed and complicated and sometimes terrifying, but real. And that, I thought as sleep claimed me, was worth everything.